Hi, this is Daniela Wolf with Bestie Life, the podcast, and this is your community to support you through the little and not so little events that make up your day-to-day life. From the I've got this moments to the I just can't moments. We are here to empower all women to find and develop the skills they need to find peace, balance, and the bliss in their busy. Through solo episodes as well as interviews with amazing women who share their journey and their story and how it works for you. I hope you find the inspirations to make you laugh, think, as well as maybe rethink what you thought you knew, and connect as we realize that we are all living similar ups and downs and don't have to do it alone. So excited for you to hear this episode, and thanks so much for joining me today. Hi, this is Daniela with Bestie Life, and today in this micro episode, we're going to dive into the whole work-life balance thing. You know, that elusive unicorn that we're all supposedly looking for out our backyards, but little spoiler alert, we're not finding it. We don't see it there. But I want you to kind of reimagine what you're going to think about balance as being like, talk about some of the pitfalls that kind of bring up these myths of work-life balance, and see how we can start to find it more successfully in our lives. So unfortunately, we've been sold this image of balance as being kind of this kind of delicate symmetry where one misstep can kind of send our whole world crashing down because we're holding our whole professional business work-life side on one hand, and we're holding our personal life, our families, our fun on the other hand. And if we're not keeping things at an even keel, we're not finding balance. But that's not really what balance is like. And I think that's where some of this myth comes from. And so maybe instead of looking at it as a scale that's kind of going back and forth, it's not going to be about nailing that perfection where both sides are at the same level the whole time, but really finding that rhythm that flows with your life. And so it's not just about seeing, that things are staying the same, but they're going to keep fluctuating. They're going to keep flowing in different ways. Now, on the road to finding balance, there's a couple of hiccups, and sometimes that we can fall into some traps that get us stuck from really feeling like we're in flow, we're in harmony with our work and life balance. So the first thing that can trip us up is our boundaries, or the lack thereof. And if you know me, you know boundaries is one of my favorite B words, because you're almost kind of like just dancing to everybody else's tune, right? I've been there where you're people pleasing, you're saying yes, you're trying to bend over backwards to help everyone but ourselves. And don't even get me started on the guilt that can come from that, because I think when we're ambitious women, we want to be leaders, we want to be seen as the go-to person, that capable person. We're also shooting ourselves in the foot when we are trying to do too much, when we are not setting those boundaries around our time, around our actions, around what activities we're going to be making the space for. And so by being aware of our boundaries ahead of time, honestly communicating those boundaries is how we're going to let go of some of that guilt and that overwhelm and find more freedom to find some of that balance. I want you to almost just imagine a kid on a seesaw, right? You don't just stay in one place where each kid is at the same level. It goes up, it goes down. And so sometimes work is going to take the spotlight. Sometimes our personal life is going to take the spotlight. And it's that movement, that kind of natural flow that creates that magic, that creates that balance, and helps you to find that contentment over time, where you're not going to have equal parts every single day. But when we intentionally craft the way that movement goes, the way that flow is, that's where we start to then really own it and feel like we are obtaining that balance. So, like I said, that first part is to set some clear boundaries. So not sending late night work emails, not responding to things during family dinners or your kid's softball game, prioritizing what truly matters, yourself first and foremost, every single day, finding time for self-care, practical self-care. You haven't heard me talk about practical self-care, what that looks like. There's some previous podcast episodes tagged in the show notes below that help you, as well as some blog entries that can give you a real idea of self-care is not just the spa days, the bubble baths, the girl getaways, which I love, but it's not sustainable on a day-to-day basis. And so it'll come down to how you eat, how you sleep, how you move, how you think about money, how you dress, how you decorate and organize your home, how you connect with others, as well as your own personal development. So creating space for prioritizing yourself, your self-care, so that it's not necessarily trying to happen when you're working, but it's allowing you to recharge and tackle those professional challenges with that fresh energy. And I know these might seem like small, simple steps. A lot of times they feel like common sense, and so we don't always take that same intention in planning them and taking the time in figuring out and working with someone, if need be, working with a coach to find that routine and that rhythm that's going to work best for you. But these are the building blocks of a life where your work, your business, and your personal, family, personal life all kind of work harmoniously and groove together. Also, when I talk about balance, again, like I said, it's not about things being equal, but balance comes from our ability to adapt, pivot, have that resilience in addition to those boundaries. And so knowing what different options are, knowing that when we have a situation come up, we can adapt and roll through those highs and lows in our day rather than having that turn into a wall. Pivot, we can see different options on how to solve different things, on how to take our plans and move them in a different direction rather being fixed on only one way of doing stuff. Our mindset comes into play on that a lot. And then our resilience, because life will happen, the goods, the bads, the ups and downs, and knowing that we can acknowledge and recognize when these things happen, but that doesn't mean we need to unpack and stay there, is how we then keep moving, keep having that flow. And in general, life isn't a solo trip. It's meant to be a group adventure, sharing our struggles, our strategies, our failures, our triumphs. And so redefining balance in a way that fits your unique life is what's going to help you find that work-life flow, work-life harmony, overall work-life happiness. And so let's ditch that myth of perfect balance, of everything being equal, and create our own definitions of what that flow is going to be like each day, what that success is going to look like, and how we're going to kind of keep flowing from our work to our life and create that space for prioritizing ourselves and what really matters on a day-to-day basis. So I hope you were able from this micro episode to pull 1 to 2 things you can start to do as far as taking that first step together, reshaping what work-life balance looks like for you. If you have a question, please reach out to me in the chat or DM me on social media. I would love to answer maybe something specific of what that could look like for you, or grab a spot on my calendar. We can do a free framework focus call and really look at where you're nailing it, where things are going great, and what areas we can help you build more strategies for and more options to make that work-life balance more successful for you. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much again for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please let me know any questions or comments that you have. Also, if you can please leave an Apple 5-star review so that this episode can be shared with more women. There's 2 quotes that I love. Alone we may be strong, but together we are stronger, as well as when women support each other, incredible things happen. So let's be stronger and incredible together, as well as maybe just have some fun along the way. Thanks so much, and talk to you soon. Bye.